Hello everyone. Today I am introducing Kalamandalam Barbara Vijayakumar. She is the first female chutti artist in the world. She is doing a chutti last 50 years. In that time, Kalamandalam have no a few months course, Hriswagala course, and she did a fully trained at that time. Full 2 years course was for a chutti. She studied from Kalamandalam Govinda Varyar Ashan, and last 50 years she is a professional chutti artist. Now she is going to introduce herself and was she going to explain to you what she is. Thank you. Barbara?
Namaskaram. I am Kalamandalam Barbara Vijayakumar and the first female chutti artist in the world, graduating from the Kerala Kalamandalam in 1976 after having the privilege of learning chutti from the greatest master ever, Govinda Warrior Ashan. He gave me everything that I know. To train in chutti was actually an accident. I spent years training as an artist in Rochdale College of Art and Winchester College of Art in the UK. After my course finished in 1972, I decided that I wanted to go overland to Australia to find the Aborigines and to ask them if I could learn their makeup. So I set off from England with one bag, hitchhiking all the way through Europe, and when I got to Turkey I went on local buses through Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan. In Afghanistan I'd had enough of riding on buses, so I decided I wanted to walk. So walking through the mountains I met a small boy who gave me a lift on his donkey, and then another boy who gave me a lift on his bicycle. And to get from the mountains of Afghanistan back to Kabul, I went on the top of a lorry under a blanket, because a woman on her own in a Muslim country wasn't what you should do, so I had to go under a blanket. Then through the Khyber Pass, where there were bandits with guns following the bus that I was on, and then into Pakistan, and finally India. But the minute I crossed the border into India, I felt that I'd come home. I felt I knew everything about India. Nothing was strange, eating with my hands. All the traditions of India were so normal. So if there is a past life, I believe I've been Indian before. So I started off on my journey through India, through staying in Amritsar and going up into the mountains to Shimla, and then back through towards Varanasi and Puri, and then down through Chennai, all travelling by train. I never had enough money for a reservation seat, so I went third class, non-reservation. And many times I'd be sleeping under the seat of the train, and I felt really lucky because I had somewhere to lie down. I made friends wherever I went in India, and then when I crossed into Kerala, it was very different. People didn't speak so much, and I managed to make friends in Trivandrum, I can't say it, Trivandrum, and wherever I went by speaking to them. Then I was going towards Bangalore from Cochin, and I needed to change trains in Shoranor, and this is where the biggest accident happened. I got off the train at the wrong stop, Valaton Nagar. So instead of being in Shoranor, I was 4 kilometres away from it, and by the time I'd got out of the train it had gone. So I was walking down the road, and I met a Mandolin player who was standing at the white gate in Kalamandalam, the tiny little white gate. and he said, have you seen the school? So I said I'd never heard of Kalamandalam. So he told me to go to Old Kalamandalam, where I met Leela Nambudripad, who showed me around all the classes, the students studying Bhavanatiyam, but I never saw Kathakali. So I asked her if I could train and study makeup. At that time I'd still never seen Kathakali. So she took my address and she said yeah. I eventually went back to England and I started to save up enough money to come back, again overland. When I arrived in Kerala, in Cherutruti, to start my course in Chutti, I'd still never seen Kathakali in my life. I remember standing on the second floor with Supran, and he told me all about the course and welcomed me to Kalamandalam. And he brought my Ashan, which was the great Kalamandalam Govindawara Ashan. And Ashan came over and he stood. And he took me back to my gallery. And at that time there was a young student called Ramachandran who became my lifelong friend. And we began learning Chutti together. We were given an earthenware pot and a coconut pot with rice paste in it, and I had to dribble it on the pot and spread it out with an Hercula. And for 4 days I had no idea what I was doing, and I thought, when am I going to start learning makeup, thinking painting the face. That Friday night Ashan told me there was a performance and he said, you must come. I went and I saw the great Padma Shri Kalamandalam Gopi Ashan performing Bhima and my Ashan doing his Chutti. That night changed my life. I knew I was involved with something incredible and I knew I had to train properly. So I started practicing, and at the time we were just doing Arioni, just the Chutti, just the rice paste, no paper, and we built up the Chuttis just in rice, the old style of Kathakali Chuttis. I had planned to only study for 3 months, but Indrachudan, who again became a great friend, he advised me, don't go to Australia, stay here and study Chutti full time. And there used to be a white gate at the railway crossing near Kalamandalam, and the gate was closed. And at that gate I decided, when Indrachudan said stay, that I was going to stay and I was going to train for the full course. So eventually the Chuttis evolved and we started to add paper. Now my Ashan, Govindawara Ashan, couldn't speak a word of English. I couldn't speak a word of Malayalam. So how could he teach me? He couldn't say, here a little bit thinner, then a bit thicker, then taper and make it smaller. He only could do ah. And now, 50 years later, when I cut the paper shapes, Ashan's sound is still in my head. And he would go ah, that's Pacha. But ah is Katalan. There's a different shape to a different sound, and that's how I learned all the different Chuttis, through Ashan's sound. Eventually I did my Arangatam with Ramachandran in Old Kalamandalam, and my lifelong devotion to Chutti began. I wanted to use Chutti in my own work as a performance artist, to create images on a human face that was a living sculpture. So after my 2 years had finished, I again went overland back to England for the 3rd time, and when I arrived I started my own company called Centre Ocean Stream, And it wasn't Kathakali, it wasn't dance, it wasn't drama, it was living sculpture. And I, using Chutti, built up the face to create new designs. Never did I intend to copy Kathakali in any way. To my surprise, people really loved watching Central Ocean Stream because it was so colourful, so visual. And slowly, we built up a reputation where we would go to theatres and perform, and the audiences would give standing ovations. So after 10 years I came back to Kalamandalam and I found a group of young artists really struggling because they were not earning enough money to survive. And I thought, what can I do about this? I realised that if I brought Kathakali to the UK, the artists could be paid and they could live. So I met with my friend Kalamandalam Vijayakumar, who became my beloved husband, and we started the Kala Chaitanya Kathakali company to take artists from Kerala to the UK, mainly to survive. So the first tour we went all over the UK and it was a huge success. We then started making more and more tours, and we brought so many incredible artists. The greatest honour was when these magnificent artists agreed to come on our tours, to include Padma Shri Kalamandalam Gopi, who injected amazing quality into the work we were presenting. Kalamandalam Vasu Prasadi Ashan, who sadly passed away, he also was incredible with his contribution to our work. The great Kalamandalam Nellioda Ashan brought amazing skill and talent to the Redbeard characters, and many more artists that came and grew Kathakali in this country. We've been working now the last 35 years and have presented over 2,000 Kathakali performances in this country, 4,000 solo performances, 3,000 workshops and 28 exhibitions. So when we're not in Kerala, we're working really hard, doing workshops. Kalamandalam Vijayakumar Vijaya, he's developed an incredible skill and talent in passing on Kathakali skills to people of all ages and abilities. He's done workshops for people that can only move their eyes. They're so disabled. For older people, for young children in primary schools, students of theatre and dance, and the widest range of people you can imagine. People from Kerala, people from different parts of India, people from all walks of life in all over the UK, from the Isles of Scilly, the tiny Isles of Scilly, off the coast of southwest England, right up to the Highlands of Scotland, to incredible audiences, and all the cities in between, Inverness, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, London, Southampton, Exeter, you name it, Kathakali's performed there. After all this time, we have a good following of Kathakali, people who love Kathakali, who come and support our work. Kathakali speaks for itself. It's the most incredible form of theatre in the world, the most powerful, and what makes it so special is the depth of performance. So our performers are selected because they have the ability to go deeper than the technique. That is very important. It's the heart of Kathakali that generates a connection with the audience. And when we perform Kathakali, because not everybody understands the mudras, the facial expressions, how they're connected, We do a short demonstration where Vijay demonstrates the difference in body language between male and female. That's easy to understand. Then moving on to the mudras, which are difficult to understand, and starting with easy ones like eyes, face, want, don't want. And then when you understand what the mudra means, like worried, it all makes sense. And then bringing in the face, how the face brings the mudras alive. And finally, what makes Kathakali so special, it enables us, the audience, to use our imagination. And for that, he demonstrates the bee taking nectar from the flower. And that's what makes Kathakali special. It becomes the audience's story. And the link between the performer and the audience is made. And that's how we've survived all these years. Not just doing a performance, but taking the time to do workshops before the full company come. Taking time to do workshops when they've gone away. Taking time to do exhibitions so people can learn about the history of Kathakali, learn about Kalamandalam, learn about the costumes, what they mean, how they're made. We've even given master classes in the Victoria and Albert Museum for their curators to understand how to look after the costumes, how to care for them, what they mean. And for that is a real honour. Now, Kathakali is something that is inside my heart. It's something that will be there till the day I die. From that first time when I walked into Kalamandalam and met my asham, until I take my last breath, I will be breathing Kathakali because it means so much to me. It fills me with so much joy, and it's the most incredible art form I've ever experienced in my life. So to that I say thank you to all the great ashans, to Kalamandalam who made me, to all the people who love and support Kathakali. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Okay, Barbara, can you tell me a little more about life with the women, as a woman, doing the journey and difficulty, and you are the first woman. As a Chutti in Kathakali field, all men, isn't it? So can you explain what is that now is lots of girls studying to make Kathakali Vesham and other singing and drumming and all sorts of things. So what do you feel like that?
That's a very good point. Life was very different when I was in Kalamandalam. If I go to Kalamandalam now, there are young girls, young boys sitting under the tree near the temple chatting, and that was not allowed. When I was a student, the boys and the girl students were segregated. The girls went into their hostel, the boys were in their hostel, and you couldn't mix. And that caused a problem, because what could they do with me, a female Chutti artist, going on tour with the Kalamandalam troupe? It was difficult, because in them days there was no air conditioning on the bus. It was the old Kalamandalam bus and we all piled in, but being Chutti, me and my classmate Ramachandran, we were lucky. We got on the back of the bus where the boxes, and you could lie down on the boxes. So we had a really comfortable seat. Now for some reason, because Ramachandran was my classmate, I could sit next to him, but not anybody else, only Ramachandran. And because I was a female student, when we stopped to take meals, the ashans took me with them. So I would be sitting with all the great ashans for my meal, and the rest would be sitting for their meal. And the ashans were wonderful. They always made sure that I had food and that I ate, and they took really good care of me, almost like a daughter. I was treated with with such respect. But there came a point where this segregation got really difficult for me, and we were in a performance in a little village near Kalamandalam, and I was ready for the next chutti person to come, and I heard Welakati Venda, and I understood what that meant. I don't want the white woman. So I put my chutti pot down and I stood up and I went. And I decided, that's it, I've had enough. I don't want to stay in this segregated place. So I was preparing to go back to England. And on the corner where the post office is in Chirutruti, I met my little gang of friends, and they asked, why have you not been into your class? And I said, because I've had enough of the segregation. I'm a person. I want to study chutti, not as a girl or a boy, but as a human being. And I said, nobody sits next to me. I'm always left on my own. And I said, yeah, when we went for performances, all the boys would be chatting away and I'd be sat on a box on my own. And it got really lonely. So I told him I was fed up with this and I was going back to England. So then another change happened. He slapped me on the back and he said, we were only showing you with respect, you're our friend. And after that I became an honorary boy. And I went round with my little gang of friends and finished my course. And I became accepted as a chutti artist, regardless that I was a woman. But I had to fight for that. It didn't come automatic.
Okay. I want to ask you another question is, you know the dressing room used to be like a temple. What happened? The girl, now is changing in the dressing room atmosphere. What do you feel? What do you think? This is maybe you can explain the girls how they behave in the dressing room.
Well, I did experience this as a student. Whenever the girls came along, that incredible atmosphere in the dressing room was broken. Even 50 years ago, as soon as the girls came on the scene, the boys were and the girls were, and it became destroyed. So whenever the girls were part of our Kathakali tour, I didn't like it, because for me the green room, the Anaria, is a temple. It's a place where the character absorbs the spirit of the actor absorbs the spirit of the character that he's going to perform. And that is a divine gift, it's not a rite. And if without devotion, it's impossible to make that spiritual connection. For the chutti artist, I am creating the image of that character to represent a god or an evil character, but all are spiritual. And that connection requires silence. When I'm doing the chutti, I'm thinking about where this is coming from. It's not from me, it's coming from divinity through my ashan into my hands, onto the face of the actor. And I remember doing a chutti once in Ottapalam. You'll never believe this. The actor, his phone rang, his mobile phone rang. I was doing the chutti and he actually picked it up to answer it. So I sat back and I thought, go on. He answered the phone. I carried on with the chutti. And when I'd finished the chutti, I said, don't you ever do that again. I said, do you not understand that your character starts with divinity? It comes through your ashan, into you, through the Chutti artist into your face. You give that spirituality to the audience and you give it back to the gods. That circle, if you break it, you've broken that link of why we do Kathakali. It's not just a performance. It's about conveying divinity through drama into the audience so that they can understand something about themselves that will improve their understanding of divinity and how to live a better life. That's why we do Kathakali, not to entertain. It's connecting the spirituality of the gods with the audience. And he said, no one's ever told me that before. Nobody told me, I just knew it. And this is what breaks my heart, is that when the girls are coming into Kathakali now, I was at another performance, I think last year, and they're giggling, they're laughing, they're talking, and 3 times I had to tell them to stop. They haven't got a clue what they're doing, and that must change. It must change. Otherwise Kathakali is going to, it's just going to be destroyed. The heart of Kathakali, the soul of Kathakali will be completely lost unless that connection is re-evaluated. And bring girls into Kathakali by all means. How can I object? But for goodness sake, understand what you are doing. You're coming into a world that has been predominantly male for 500-600 years. That is a huge responsibility. And that bringing in male and female artists together it's a responsibility that women must take on, and they must observe that deeper spiritual connection. Otherwise Kathakali will be destroyed without doubt.